Well, friends, welcome to today's webinar. And today this is the inauguration ceremony of the competency-based medical education in microbiology. From here, we will start with the Saraswati Vandana, and then we will hand over to our chief guest, Dr. Siraj. With this invocation to God Almighty, that the objectives of our CBME microbiology discussions is achieved, I hand over the comparing to Dr. Purnima Barua and Dr. Sanjay Mehta, and over to you, Dr. Purnima.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay, fine. All right, esteemed colleagues, it's been it's really a nice feeling to have you all here once again on the same this platform which has been created by Dr. Sanjay Bedi. I'm immensely grateful on behalf of the entire team to Dr. Sanjay Bedi for his initiation and his untiring efforts. That after pathology and pharmacology, we are the next group of CBME microbiology who would be working together. And this platform definitely in this trying times and under so much of constraints, it gives us a good platform that we work together and come up with whatever needs to be done with this curriculum, the competency-based medical education curriculum, which has been rolled out by the Medical Council of India. And I think we all are safe at our homes or wherever we are working, and as a microbiologist we very well understand the situation we are in at this moment, these viruses, how they behave, what it would be like, and what the situation is now. Meanwhile, parallelly we will also have to gear ourselves up so that we are ready to welcome the first batch of this new curriculum to our to the second phase, or the part 2 of year 2 of this MBBS curriculum. By now you are aware that we all are, as a group, we have joined in into this CBME curriculum or CBME microbiology curriculum group, and this has been created keeping in mind that all the various competencies which have been given out in this wonderfully documented CBME curriculum of MCI, we need to work it out so that some kind of uniformity can be brought in across the country, if not in all the institutions, at least the major ones. And any doubts, whatever we have, that can be cleared on this platform, and we can also propagate this in other institutions as and when required. This has been already done in pathology and pharmacology, as well as I know, as far as I know. This entire thing will help us discuss all the various scopes that we have, what are the kind of classes that we can design. And there are ample number of things that will be discussed over time. We would also like to know what your requirements are throughout. What kind of hand holding we can do, or we can rather help each other in the best possible way to achieve what we desire to achieve. Today we have Dr. Siraj Ali Muhammad, sir from Manipal Institute. And sir, we are very honored to have you here for this inaugural speech of yours. We are waiting to be inspired and motivated by you. Over to Siraj, sir.
Thank you, Purnima and Sanjay for starting this initiative. I hope I'm heard.
Yes,
Can
sir.
you hear me, right?
You are.
Yeah. Well, if you look at what's happening all around, not only in terms of the pandemic, but also the number of developments happening not only in the educational sector, but also in healthcare delivery. There will be no doubt for anyone that competency-based approach has to be enacted or has to be followed without much delay. Well, when Sanjay wanted me to come and give an inaugural address for this, I tried to resist as much as possible. I said such workshops should begin with an end in the mind, right? That's what we talk about, outcome-based and competency-based approaches. But somehow you cannot really get away when people like Sanjay Bedi, who are close friends, invite you. That too, it's a community of microbiologists. And Purnima, another good friend of mine, who is also leading this. And there are many people whom I know actually are getting ready to see that the whole microbiology can be aligned in this curriculum. Having said that, this approach has always been challenging. It's not an approach that has been wholeheartedly welcomed by educationists everywhere. Whenever they started this approach, if you look at the history of competency-based education and competency-based medical education, it has been turbulent. So it is prudent to observe, or to rather to introspect as to why such approaches were advocated or adopted. Now, one of the major concerns that we have in the Indian system of health professions education and healthcare delivery is where you get to see that how much of what the student has learned is being practiced. Now, when I say practice, the question that most of us ponder, not only us, every stakeholder who is associated with this will ask is, are we producing graduates who are competent to cater to the health needs of the society? Now, this is a very tricky question. We may not be doing this in the entirety. So the corrective actions, if at all we have to take, has to be by working our way backwards and then defining the expected roles of a physician that will serve the health requirements of the community. When I say this, there is a thrust given to the sorry, there is a thrust given to the local context, but at the same time, the global citizenship or the global aspects also need to be taken into account. Now, for example, look at the current pandemic situation. Now, how much of, in terms of knowledge, skills, and attitude, did we contribute for the management of this problem? I don't want any answers, but this is very important for every microbiologist and infectious diseases specialist to actually ponder. So what I'm trying to tell you is the curriculum needs to be designed towards achieving the outcome requirements, which is what you're going to discuss. That means to clearly state the characteristics and abilities of doctors who are graduating from medical schools in terms of what microbiology knowledge do they require, in terms of what skills do they need, in terms of what attitudes and values they must demonstrate. So this will be then designed towards achieving the outcome requirements, of course, steered by the most appropriate assessment methods. So that is the essence of competency-based medical education. Now, when you talk about competency-based medical education and the rationale, it's good to see some of the basic terminologies associated with that. I'm sure that these things are going to be done in detail in the sessions that are going to come. Competency, by definition, is the ability to do something efficiently. So, CBME is an approach that will help the graduates develop the competencies which is required to take care of the patient's needs in the society. Now, there lies the most important issues to be addressed, because ideally it does not give much importance to time-based training. Competency-based medical education offers a great amount of agility, accountability, and learner-centeredness. So that means when we are designing this microbiology curriculum based on the outcomes, we have to be very careful that the teaching, learning, and assessment would focus on the development of competencies. And that has to continue till the desired competency is achieved. Which also tells us that assessment won't be a one-time event, or assessment is not going to be restricted like the festivities that we have. One during Diwali, one during Christmas, one during Eid. No. Assessments are going to be frequent and formative in nature. So don't get me wrong when I say formative. As we evolve in competency-based microbiology education, you will understand that the distinctions between these are going to be blurred, summative, formative, Rather, it's going to be a continuous process. A continuous process, some people might say continuous assessment. Some would make it a little more defined and present in a pure manner like programmatic assessment. Whatever it is, assessment is going to be a very important factor. And feedback is going to be inbuilt in the process of training. So each student will be assessed by a measurable standard, which is objective. And mind you, it is independent of the performance of the other learners. So to a large extent, if with a neutral mind if you assess, this approach will focus of teaching and learning and assessment in the context of a real life medical practice. So in this particular aspect, I believe that in the sessions that will come up, very important aspects, the triad as we call, competencies, EPAs, which are entrustable professional activities, and milestones will be taken up. While competency is the application of competencies in the real setting, and you certify someone as competent if when he or she can do that. The entrustable professional activity is something that will bridge the gap, as it is always said, between the theory and practice of competency-based medical education. Experts in this program will tell you that while competencies are abilities, EPAs are descriptors. What are these descriptors? Descriptors of performance. So it is all at the higher level. Descriptors of the work that would define the profession. That is where you and me will have to craft those descriptors in relation to the health outcomes, and obviously considering the special context of India, we'll have to draft. So that is what makes EPA a very complex but clear in terms of bringing in multiple competencies. Some would say integrative, some would say holistic. So a very simple example, let's say if you want to give the management of tuberculosis at primary level is your EPA, then you have a set of outcomes in terms of the knowledge that you should know. What are the most important signs and symptoms or clinical presentation of tuberculosis? What are those most important investigations in the Indian context that we ought to bring in? How is it managed again in the Indian context? In terms of procedural skills, or in terms of skills, rather skills I would say, because in second year it's the skills. The skills of interviewing, the skills of general and systemic examination, the skills of interpretations, for example, with the given reports, or the skills of reasoning. All these things have to be addressed. And a very rarely addressed, but important in this particular form of curriculum delivery, will be how do we offer appropriate guidance in this case, for example, and how do you communicate all these things. But if you look at carefully, these things also map with the competencies that have been identified for an Indian medical graduate. So you may map it with a professional, you may map it with somebody who is a communicator, a clinician, and so on. Finally, I also want to mention about milestones, because competency doesn't come all of a sudden. It's a step-by-step process, and these step-by-steps are actually what we refer to as milestones. And specifically in the context of in the Indian curriculum, it is good that we have this because we are developing it. And again, experts in this forum will tell you mostly used reference models, and how from novice to advanced beginner to competent to proficient to expertise, right? How do we go about that? We will also have to address, about the supervision that goes into it. And that is what you and me as a community of microbiologists will have to do. Now, having said that, please do not forget that you can't go entirely by the way that we were doing conventional curriculum. Competency-based learning or competency-based medical education brings in a lot of teaching learning activities which are more skill-based, which are more clinical, which are more hands-on experience. So that means our students should be able to go or at least get to see cases in today's circumstances, at least to see them online. And this, in fact, can be the primary factor for motivation for many, because one of those things that even after introduction of early clinical exposure, that students keep asking at some point of time, I've heard this, is it important for me to know this as a doctor? Or how is it going to help me in the process of me or my making as a doctor? I am reiterating the importance of feedback, because our system does not really, I won't say permit, I would say rather has not really encouraged particularly self-appraisals of one's own progress. And it is time to start, not only as a teacher to provide feedback, but also by providing feedback, how do we make our students? We can always give a feedback, but sometimes what happens to the feedback? It is never acted upon. So what I'm trying to tell this group of medical educators or microbiology educators is, how do we help them to be aware of their own problems, own lacunae, or own drawbacks in the process of learning? And finally, it's about assessment. Assessment is the most hardest one when it comes to competency-based assessment. The proponents of competency-based medical education will put it largely work-based. Now, that is where we'll have to very carefully craft our own stuff. Maybe simulation could be one way that we could do this, particularly in the early phases. We will have to see how many of those things can come into direct observation and how many of those authentic clinical encounters can bring in fundamental concepts of microbiology in terms of, could be specimen collection, in terms of antibiotic resistance, coupled with maybe pharmacologists for the rational prescription. Could be also, we talk about, issues that are related to outbreaks, pandemics, and things on. So with a lot of agility that we have, I'm sure that as a group of communicators, as a group of educators, which I often call as community of educators, as communities of practice, people who have come, as Purnima rightly said, with a vision, with a same passion for the penchant of enhancing students' learning in microbiology, so that he becomes a competent graduate who can deliver his services. And we have not fallen short of providing them the opportunities to actually grab these aspects. Having said that, the cardinal aspects of validity, reliability, acceptability, educational impact, and cost effectiveness must be taken into consideration. So I compliment Sanjay, Purnima, and all others who are a part of this, including the participants who have registered. I'm sure that you would have registered with a good intention of learning these things, and this good intention stems from helping your learner. And that is very important for our profession. I will wind up by just narrating a story. Some of you probably would know this. The story of Mahadeva, which was which is something that has come in news time and again, and also depicted very clearly in Subrado Bachi's Professional. Madhava, based in Bangalore, he is said to be buried more than 50,000 corpses in his lifetime, and he does that for people who have no one. You know, when destitutes or when there are people, unclaimed bodies, it is Mahadeva who comes and actually does everything for these people and provides them dignity during the time of death. So Bachi says, here you see a high performer, a true professional. Now, competence is nothing but that, right? So what are those qualities that make Mahadeva a true professional and a competent person? If you analyze, there are only two things which I can relate to what we expect from our students also. One is the ability to work unsupervised. So whenever Mahadeva got a call to reach the morgue, day or night, ale or water, he arrived. It was a gruesome experience of dealing with a dead body. But then, without any supervision, unsupervised, he actually took care of them. And what is the second quality? He himself was able to certify the completion of his own work. Of course, in his profession, he can't choose his clients, but he can certify the work and provide them the dignity that everyone deserves respect and no one should feel unwanted in death. So I feel these two important aspects. Number one is what I said, the ability to work unsupervised. Second one, the ability to certify the completion of one's work. So I thought that I should end my inaugural address by sharing Mahadeva as a truly competent professional. I wish you all the best, and I thank Sanjay Bedi for inviting me for this inaugural address. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Siraj sir. May I just quickly introduce Dr. Siraj sir? Dr. Siraj Ali Mohammed sir, he is a professor of microbiology, deputy director, CCID Mahe, that is Manipal Academy of Higher Education, and course director of Mahe FEMA. Sir, thank you so much for brilliantly opening up the session for us, and we hope we abide by whatever you have said and keep in mind the passion to keep microbiology and this new curriculum and giving it the utmost, whatever it deserves from all of us over here. May I now introduce, or rather invite, Dr. Sanjay Mehta, who has been with us throughout, and he has been helping us design the way ahead. Dr. Sanjay Mehta, can we have you? Are you there? Hello.
Yes, madam. I'm here.
Yes. So, welcome. And Dr. Sanjay Mehta is one of the pillars over here. He has been doing a lot over these last few days in designing and distributing the topics, etc. So I would request him to please share with us a few slides and talk about what we intend to do and how to achieve our goals.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, madam, for your kind words. I'm just trying to coordinate the things, right? It was a very nice presentation by Dr. Siraj, and we really appreciate the effort of Dr. Sanjay Bedi, right? That we all are on this particular platform. I can see there are 34 participants, and probably the total number of participants registered are something around 80. So we all need to be on one platform to achieve our goal. Okay, so we'll think about that, how we can bring all of them on this particular platform. I'm quickly going to show you the way forward, how we are planning to go. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So competency-based medical education that everybody is talking about all over the world. But the one thing which is very particular is that if you look right from the anatomy to medicine and surgery, the microbiology has been totally upside down. No other subject, no other subject has changed drastically with introduction of a competency-based medical education. So once again, we all need to be on this platform, and we need to find out and how we can implement this curriculum uniformly, right? So we'll talk about this, the conventional model starting from the curriculum and then going for assessment. Over here, we are looking for the health need, deriving the competencies, and we are building the curriculum. And what we have been teaching in microbiology is individual organisms, right? And this is sudden change, and now we'll be talking about the systems and infection. So that is why it is very important that we all work together. So what we are doing over here, you can see in a series of webinar that Dr. Bedi sir and Dr. Purnima Barua, along with other faculty members, there will be some introductory webinars on topic like what is competency-based medical education, what is competency, what is objective, how to integrate various teaching learning methods and various assessments, which all will come together, and it will be essential part of a competency-based medical education. Many of you have gone through CISP and basic course workshop in medical education, but some of you may not have gone through, right? So it is once again very desirable that we will walk through introductory part of this, and then we will go ahead and we will work on our task, right? The basic task. Dr. Sanjay Bedi has already created a Google Classroom. Various teaching learning resources are already put over there. So it is my humble request that you all please go through various teaching learning resources. There are recordings of various webinars which are being put over there. Even a recording of this webinar will be put over there. Even you can identify the link which is there in a group activity, and you can work on the sheet which is created, which I am once again going to show you at last. So please enroll in Google Classroom. Currently we are having only 48 students. And if we are not able to get all of you on that platform, it will be very difficult to work together. So this is what we have done till now. Competency list which is being provided by the document of MCI. We have seen that there are systems / topic which is being narrated over there, and there are certain competencies. So for our comfort and conveniency, we have divided this competency into the systems. And you can see over here, in most of the system, the maximum competency which is covered is 8. It was more in zoonotics, so we have divided into part 1 and part 2. General microbiology and immunology that we have separated out. So what we are planning that we'll be having this number of groups. We'll be having a group leader who will be coordinating with the group members, and ultimately we will be able to identify the learning objective out of this competency. So this is what our plan, and this is what we have done till now. Our main task is to identify, or rather to extract, specific learning objective, right? The MCI document says about competency, and what we need to bring out is objective out of that. and that objective would be for one particular instruction or one particular lesson, right? But that work we will do after some completion of a general introduction of the topics. At the end, before we depart in few weeks or few months, probably 2 or 3 months, this workshop will go on. The most important part after extracting the learning objective is also to arrange a timetable or devise a timetable, right? So what would be required that probably Medical Council of India would ask for uploading of the timetable maybe by August or September. It may be delayed because of this pandemic, but we should be able to at least devise some working timetable. So we need to identify the systems are given, competencies are given, and from competencies we need to extract out the objectives, and objectives need to be grouped together in a topic which we can write in a timetable. Then we also need to identify the appropriate teaching learning method and appropriate tool for assessment. And when we are going to do this, we also need to focus on integration part. What Medical Council of India is talking about, 3 important integration. One is horizontal, that is temporal, and along with that, there is nesting and sharing. So we will put appropriate teaching learning resources with regards to integration also. So all of you can go through that, and it will be very easy to understand what basically Medical Council of India is aiming and what we can achieve. So this is our aim. At the end of that, you would be able to at least prepare a timetable. And this is once again, I'm sharing you the sheet, right? You can see over here. Is it visible to all of you? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So you can see over here, this is a Google Sheet which is shared to all of you. Once again, Bedi sir will share it again because there are some new members who have come in and they may not have received. That is the complaint which we have received in this group, rather suggestion. One my sincere request to all of you that in this weekend, please just go through the technological part of this online workshop, right? Working in a Google Sheet, working in a Google, working in a classroom, how to join the webinar, how to, the etiquettes of webinar, these all things, please just go through by this weekend, then it will become very easy for you. You can see this is the sheet, Google Sheet, which is shared with you, MCI competencies. At the end, we will be able to come out with this teaching hours, which is divided into semesters, right? And systems. So don't get me wrong if these semesters are 3, because MCI is now talking about 12 months or 11 months to be very precise. This is what we are planning is 4 or 3 months of semester, right? That would be appropriate. And this is how we can distribute it, because we are also supposed to take internal examination accordingly. These are the topics which we have done. Over here, all of you can see that according to competency number, there are in some of the group appropriate number of persons are there. In some of there, you can see vacancies. Vacancies are green in color, and in some you can see pink in color. They are more than that. So I request those who are there, those who want to join, please come and fill these places which are there available. So we all can work together, and it would not be a cumbersome for only few members to derive the objectives, right? Initially, I request all the members that you please be in one group only. So you will be able to focus on that particular competency and extracting the objective. Later on, we can also have a cross grouping there. You can once again go and check the competency and objective prepared by other group. And last, you can see once this group is final, this is almost final, but we are waiting for some more members to come in and write their name. And then we will start working on this, right? Once we get some introductory part of objective and competency, we'll start working along with that simultaneously. And these are the Google Sheet which are being provided to you. So as for example, this is general microbiology, which will be led by Dr. Kunjan Kekani and group. And this is the number 1 competency, MI 1.1. And you can see over here the competency, you need to take out the SLO for that particular competency, that all SLO need to be written down over here. And this would be your one session. As for example, this is Introduction to Microbiology. It would be delivered via lecture, and these are specific learning objective of that particular session. This is just for an example, only one I have written, but it can be many depending upon what is the session and what you try to achieve and how you are trying to deliver it and how you are trying to assess it. So this is the last work which we want to achieve, and then we will also move along with that. We will also work on deriving a timetable. So this is in brief about the introduction. Once again, I thank you all to be there on this particular platform. And once again, I also appreciate the effort taken by Dr. Sanjay Bedi. I'm giving back the stage to Dr. Purnima.
Thank you, Dr. Mehta, for this vivid description of the entire thing that we are going to pursue over the next few weeks. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay, fine. All right. So I think that gives us a gist of what we would be doing, and very soon we would let all the participants know what will be the next step. Meanwhile, as Dr. Mehta has said, let us go through all the webinars which were done earlier, especially the technology part, through this weekend, so that by the time we are into the actual, webinars which will tell about competencies and objectives, writing objectives, deriving objectives, about so all of these things may come out very useful. So with this, I hand it over to Dr. Sanjay Bedi, sir, and thanks once again to Siraj sir. Dr. Sanjay Mehta, you have been of great help, and you will be there continuously helping us, I know that. And Sanjay Bedi sir, once again.
Thank you, Purnima. And once again, I thank Dr. Siraj for out of his very busy time, he has come here and delivered the inaugural session, and through his motivational talk has raised our spirit. And thank you, Sanjay. You have just taken the whole, the brunt of on your shoulders and organized it so beautifully in the Google Sheet that
right.
Yes, and this template is so wonderfully done, and actually a large number of participants have come in last 3-4 days. I mean, there was some delay in starting, but that has been really nice, and now we are touching a century. We have crossed a century, and we will be adding all the participants in various groups, and also in the Google group, and adding them to the Google Classroom, and code for the classroom has been shared on the WhatsApp group. Please join. We have already posted some videos on this topic from the past AHP webinars, and some more study material related to this topic. So please go through it. And by Sunday, all such technology related issues should be over, so that we can allocate 2 days a week for such discussions, and each group of you must create your own competencies and present, so that all others will join hands and discuss it twice a week. And during the middle, between 2 webinars, you will continuously discuss this on the WhatsApp group. Thank you, Dr. Purnima. And with this, I think we can end it here.
Yes, and yes, we will keep everyone informed. And if there are any
Yes.
queries, you can put up in the WhatsApp group so that we can address your concerns.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.